Hey guys, it's Kevin in the Mirror for you guys. I'm reviewing this movie that I've been wanting to see for a very long time now. I've heard a lot of great things about it, and that movie is none other than Love, Simon. And of course, what Love, Simon is about is we center on the character of Simon Spear. He is your typical high school kid. You know, he's got this group of friends. He's involved in like theater stuff. But the one thing that he withholds from everyone is that he is actually gay. He is very insecure about it. That is until he realizes there is actually another kid who is also closeted and just goes under the alias of Blue, and Simon, you know, basically feels compelled to answer him back, and through the rest of the film, we see these two gradually start to get closer. Simon starts to feel attraction to Blue, and he starts to contemplate whether or not he actually should come out, and that's really all I'm gonna say. So Love, Simon in general, I was really interested in this movie for a couple of reasons. I mean, obviously, the big one being that this is a pretty risky film for a major studio, but a very important one. I mean, sure, we've had films of this kind before, but not one from a major studio, and definitely not a, you know, wide release like this. So, yes, this is a very daring film, and that was definitely the reason why I was interested in it, but also because the cast and the way the film looked, it just looked like a very well done film overall. I thought it was going to be at least a solid film. I'm happy to report, though, Love, Simon is fucking great. I love this movie. This is easily one of my favorite movies of the year so far. It's not only a very well done film about, you know, someone who is a homosexual. It's also a very well done coming of age story. And we're getting into right now, starting off with the cast. And without a doubt, that is definitely one of the best things about this film. There's a lot of things I really do love about this movie, but I feel like the cast really did enhance the material. Everyone here really gives a fantastic performance. There really isn't a bad performance to be found here, but easily the standout of this movie is Nick Robinson as Simon Spear. Now, look, this is someone who I've seen in things before, never really thought much of him, but after this movie, that is definitely going to change. He is spectacular in this role as a character of Simon. I mean, not only does he have the, you know, character down pat, the character itself is very interesting. He's able to make this role not feel overly emotional. It feels very grounded. It feels like this is how someone would be if they were closeted and if they were very afraid to, you know, withhold some sort of secret. And he does a really great job with that, but he also does very well on the comedic bits. You know, there are some scenes where you can tell what he's really going through and the struggle that he has with coming out, and, you know, you really do feel bad for him. Simultaneously, though, you also really do like him. He's very likable in the role. This isn't someone who, you know, he's forcing you to feel bad for him. You can relate to him. You can tell what he's going through, and he does a really great job with that. This is definitely, I think, going to be a breakthrough performance for him. I would be very surprised if he doesn't do some sort of big Oscar film that, like, further catapults him as an actor in at least the next 5 years. I'll be very surprised by that because he absolutely killed it here. I think this is one of the best performances I've seen so far this year, and like I said, after this, he is definitely going to be getting a lot of attention for sure. But the other person I really want to talk about is Katherine Langford in this movie, because I talked about her in 13 Reasons Why, similar to Nick Robinson and his star-making performance in this. I said in that show that she was going to get a lot of great roles, and that I thought she had a lot of potential, and now here she is, playing Simon's best friend, Leah, and she's really great in this movie. What I really love about Leah is really how quiet she is. This isn't someone who's like the most popular girl or anything. She, yes, is pretty normal for the most part, but she's very reserved. There's a lot of stuff where, you know, she doesn't feel like she's the center of attention. She feels very much like she's in the background. You can tell that she has a very close relation with Simon, and I really love their scenes here. These two have fantastic chemistry. I thought they worked very well together, and there's one scene with her where you really do feel for her character. She really did an incredible job. Once again, I think Langford has a lot of potential as an actress, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where she goes after this film because she really did a great job here. And then everyone else here I thought also was really great. Alexandra Shipp, once again, another actress haven't thought much of. She was really great here as her character. I really did love where they went with her. Jorge Lendeborg Jr., of course, the actor from Brigsby Bear. He, once again, here gives another very well done performance. His character himself is a little more insecure, definitely more insecure than the one in Brigsby Bear, but I thought he was definitely very well written, and I really love this group of friends overall. I thought they worked very well together. It felt natural. It didn't feel like they, were these, very stereotypical group of friends. It felt like a typical group of friends that I would see in, like, my high school or something like that. They did a really great job with it overall, and I was very impressed by how real that group really felt. But let's not single out the rest of the cast because they're also really great. Logan Miller here, this is, again, a very challenging role for him because a lesser actor, this could have been a really cringy role because, yes, at first glance, he is playing sort of like the eccentric, weird kid of the film. He is essentially the main antagonist named Martin, and he's looked at as very weird and different, but there's something about him where you just can't help but enjoy what he's doing, and yes, he is a bit of an ass, but he does a really good job with not making you necessarily like him, but understanding where he's coming from and realizing that he's just someone who is a bit, he's a bit of a delinquent, and he doesn't take things nearly as seriously as he should, and he's got a lot of growing up to, and I thought they did categorize that very well. Miller did a very good job in that role. Keiynan Lonsdale really surprised me in this movie. I have really not been a fan of him at all on The Flash. I've told you guys before, I do not think he's a very good actor, but he was really good here. He's not given a lot to do, but what he has, I was pretty impressed by. I thought he did a really good job. Talitha Bateman was really good, and also who I really liked, Tony Hale was hilarious, I thought, as this vice principal who, he thinks he's all cool and things like that. He has, like, a huge thing against phones. He was honestly really funny. Natasha Rothwell, I also really liked as Simon's drama teacher. She was also really funny. I really want to focus on his parents, though, because I really loved both Josh Duhamel and Jennifer Garner, because they're not your typical sort of young adult type parents. These are not idiots. These are not people who are just here to be comedic relief. Sure, they do have a lot of comedic moments, but they do feel like real people. For example, Josh Duhamel, what I really loved about his character, he's someone who is, not necessarily against gays, but he frequently makes a lot of jokes about them, and, especially when some of these reveals do take place, when Simon starts to feel a certain way, you can tell that this kind of does upset him. And Duhamel has this one really great scene where you can tell he really very much does regret that, and I thought he did a really great job. I haven't really thought much of him as an actor before, but he really did kill it here. And Jennifer Garner as well, a lot of people are talking about her in this movie and how she gives this, like, call me by your name-esque speech, and yes, she is really great here. I think she did a really great job, but I wouldn't say it's the call me by your name speech. It's because they're two very different speeches. Sure, they do have similar themes, but they're very different scenes altogether, but she does a really great job here. I really did love her character. Honestly, everyone in this movie really did a great job. Some of even the smaller characters, like I said, Natasha Rothwell is like the drama teacher, or Talitha Bateman as Simon's sister. Really, everyone did a fantastic job. There isn't a bad performance to be found in this movie, and I think, honestly, everyone really did kill it here. But now let's get to what I really want to talk about, which is the directing and the writing, because as good as Greg Berlanti is this directing, again, it is a tough task because you have to approach this in a way where it feels natural, but it doesn't feel too overly sentimental. And I think that's a lot of people were very worried about that, and I'm happy to report that's definitely not the case. What I love about this directing is really how real this movie does overall feel. A lot of people have said this feels like something John Hughes would make, and I would very much agree with that. Except for the fact that this isn't a full-on comedy. And sure, you could argue that most of John Hughes' stuff wasn't either, i.e. The Breakfast Club especially wasn't just a comedy. That was definitely the definition of a dramedy, but so is this movie. This movie does have a lot of comedic moments, and let me just say, nearly all of them very much do land. I thought the comedy was extremely consistent. This is easily one of the funniest movies of the year. I'll get to why when we get to the writing and things like that, but I thought that was very well handled. But the dramatic stuff is what impressed me that much more, because again, the film never feels overly emotional. When dramatic things happen here, it feels like a natural turn for the story. It feels like this is the direction for them to go. And, you know, when something's a big deal, obviously they play it off as a big deal, but they don't try to dramatize it. They don't try to make it feel fluffy. They really don't shy away from the harsh realities of what he does go through. I mean, there is some stuff in this movie that, yeah, it is pretty harsh, but that is what people, you know, what people like Simon really do go through. And it's very sad to see, but I thought the directing, like I said, was very well portrayed there. And I was just very impressed with how raw the film really did feel. I think Berlanti did a very good job helming it, but the writing is what it really did impress me. I really do want to talk about the writing, because one of the things that's so great about this movie is how natural, like I said, it does feel. I mean, despite the fact that Simon is gay, it does very much feel like a typical high school film. You know, you do have your tropes in there. You know, for example, Jorge Lendeborg Jr. Wants to be with Alexandra Shipp's character, and he tries to do all he can to be with her. That's something that we've seen a lot of times, but this film does it in such a good way that it does feel original. It doesn't feel like they're ripping off some film, and that's something I was overall really impressed with. And again, it doesn't seem like that is a huge deal, but that does happen a lot, where there are a lot of high school movies that do have these tropes, and they rip off a lot of films, but again, it's so well executed in this movie that it does almost feel very original. What really surprised me, though, about this film is how relatable it really is. I mean, sure, the main conflicts with him being gay, I can't personally relate to, obviously because, you know, I'm not gay and things like that, but the thing that I can relate to is the fact that, you know, Simon is dealing with this secret that he's withholding, and, you know, he's worried about what this could do to his reputation, and how his friends will react to this, you know, the negative consequences this could have on him. He's very concerned about that stuff, and that's something that I very much can relate to. I think there's always some kind of, you know, I think no matter what it is, we all have that kind of secret that we don't want anyone to know, and we're so afraid of admitting to everyone. For Simon, of course, that is his sexuality. That is the struggle with him kind of accepting who he is. And you know, when he realizes he's gay, he doesn't really know how to approach it because he's worried how people are going to react. And there's a great scene where he is, you know, looking up how to wear, you know, how gay men wear clothes and the different, you know, ways that gay people speak. And I thought it was honestly really well done. Again, the whole part of being gay, I can't relate to that. What I'm saying I can relate to is the idea that someone does have some sort of secret that they don't want anyone to know about. And I thought that was very well done, and that was just very well handled overall. But the other great thing about this film is how mysterious it really is. Obviously, the whole thing with him and Blue does withhold their identity, and this creates actually a very fun mystery, especially when it comes to Simon. One of my favorite things about the film is this motif where Simon frequently, he'll run into some guy that he may find attractive, and he starts to, you know, basically come to the conclusion that they must be Blue, and we hear the letters read in that specific voice. And I just thought it was a really cool sort of, yeah, I just thought it was a really cool device, honestly. It really did get us, you know, zero in on Simon's character. You know, it helped us show, you know, who Simon thinks it could be. And it does trick you a few times. Like, there are points I'm like, oh, it's definitely this person. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I was actually very surprised by how unpredictable this really was and how riveting this mystery was. Like, I really did find myself getting invested in the mystery. And I was very surprised by that, honestly. I thought that was, again, very well handled. But like I said, the film's also hilarious, and the film, it doesn't try to you know, be one of those things where it beats you over the head with its one message. No, there are a lot of points where the film does kind of, you know, it's not afraid to be really funny and be goofy, and that's something I really did enjoy overall. Particularly scenes involving him in theater was very relatable. I myself did a lot of stuff in theater in high school, and a lot of the things that this drama teacher said, Yeah, that felt very relatable, and I very much did enjoy that. But there's a lot of funny stuff in this movie, a lot of scenes that I don't want to divulge into, but I thought that they were among some of the funniest scenes of the year, and I was surprised by how invested I was in this movie. Also, how funny it really was. That's something that I wasn't, expecting, and I thought that was, again, very well handled. I really did love the comedy in this movie, thought it was very consistent. Something else I really did love about this film are the main characters we're centering on here. Without saying anything, these aren't the most popular kids in school. Sure, they might have a lot of friends, and sure, they are very active on social media and things like that, but it's not like Simon is like this all-star quarterback and Leah is like this cheerleader. I mean, they're much more, of just average students, and I really did like that because I'm so used to seeing, archetypes like that, and this film really does go against the grain, and that's something that I really did enjoy overall and would love to see in other high school films. The cinematography here as well, I think, is really great. Sure, there's nothing groundbreaking about the cinematography. It's just very well shot, and I really did enjoy the cinematography here. The score itself isn't anything amazing. It's just typical stock music. That's really all it is. There's nothing really that great about it, but I did think that it was well handled overall. I thought the score did incorporate pretty well with the film. And then the editing, I thought the editing here was definitely really great. The film moves at a very nice pace. I never really did feel the length or anything like that, and that's something I was definitely very impressed by. Also, a lot of people are complaining about the main villain in this movie, and for me, I thought they did handle it pretty well. Sure, this kid is very vicious, and he is a bit of a dick, and saying that is honestly an understatement. I mean, he does a lot of fucked up stuff in this movie, especially towards our main character, and a lot of people have been upset because, what he does end up doing, he doesn't really get reprimanded that much more than just simply a slap on the wrist, but that really is how it's dealt with, within society. It's kind of sad, but the action that should be taken, rarely does that actually happen. Rarely is someone actually, in danger of something, when they do these certain actions towards someone. Rarely do they actually get the necessary, comeuppance for it. Usually that does not happen, and I did think the film was very brutally honest with the way that was done, and I think while some people might be affected by that, and I can totally understand that complaint, for me it works because it just went with the film's, very realistic tone. As far as flaws go with this movie, it is a bit hard to find them because this movie's so well handled and it's such well realized characters and a really well done story. It is hard to find flaws here, but when really thinking about it, there are two things that did bother me just a little bit. First of all, as well as these characters are thought out, there are a few characters, mainly in Simon's friend group, that do feel a bit underwritten to me, and that mainly is because of how well someone like Simon or Leah really are written. I thought some of the other characters just could have had a little bit more to them, and I was just a little bit underwhelmed. Also, when it does come time, when the time does come to reveal who Blue is, I was a little underwhelmed by that. For a while, I didn't know if the film was actually going to reveal it to you. I was wondering if it was going to be one of those things that was kind of left up in the air. But no, we do get a definitive answer. And while it is well done, and my audience certainly appreciate it, I mean, this particular reveal, when it takes place, had uproarious applause as if it was like a Broadway show finale. Like, people were freaking out. As good as the reveal was, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. And I do have to rewatch the film to see if it really does hold up. But honestly, this film is so well done that those flaws don't really bother me. This film is very important. And yes, it is a film that I do think deserves that kind of reaction. And just to see people get so excited about a film that is very well made, that definitely does excite me, and it pleases me to see that people are really enjoying this movie. For some, this is going to be a very important film. It's going to be a film that is very defining for them, and I think is going to move a lot of people. And I think it really is great that there is a mainstream film out there dealing with this subject and for people to really connect to. I think it really just shows how far we've come as a society, and it's awesome that we do have a film out that is like that. Guys, Love, Simon is a fantastic movie. It has fantastic performances, a very well-realized story, some great humor, just everything you really want in a movie, I think, is in Love, Simon. It's one of the best coming-of-age films to come out in a while, especially in a wide release for sure. I highly encourage you guys to check it out. And besides those two flaws, I pretty much loved everything about Love, Simon. I'm definitely going to give Love, Simon overall an A. But overall, guys, in my review of Love, Simon, let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall. Left your thoughts on it. Like I said, definitely let me know what you guys thought of this movie. Highly recommend you guys do check it out. There were a lot of people in my theater. I'm surprised it's not making a lot of money because there were a lot of people in my theater, and I was definitely surprised when I saw the very low box office numbers it did make. Hopefully that does improve. We'll have to see. But that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.